You can mute yourselves for now, or we'll see where this goes.
Mhm.
But um, so today I'm going to tell a story about something that I've done and experienced, and I've named it after something from Star Trek that inspires me, called the Kobayashi Maru. And this is a simulation that cadets are put into that they cannot win. They will die. And I was that's been with me for a long time, like for years. I've been thinking about this, and something about this specific experience has really tied that together for me. What does it mean for someone when you're willing to just face certain defeat and still go through with something? And then how does that change you? And that's what I want to talk about today, because that happened to me. Looking at my notes here. So I enjoy telling my stories because for so long I thought I had nothing to offer people, and I was too weird and too different, and my experiences and stories were just too out there. No one could learn anything from me, and I've learned just how wrong that is. That makes me really important to tell my stories, because it's not just the same old stuff you see regurgitated all over the place. And so when I tell a story today, it's very personal. And at the same time, I'm going to invite you to reflect on how this connects to you. It could be a piece of strategy, something I did that might affect you or inspire you. It might be a feeling of connection with me, and and how that connects you. Or just someone shared with me once that they're like, Chris, I can't explain it, but every time I watch you lean into your courage, it makes me courageous, or more courageous. And I love that feeds me, and I talk a lot about the impact I want to make on the world. And that's it. And and when I talk about those things, that's magic, and I think about, okay, so what's the difference between me and the audience that I have and some of the big names out there, the thought leaders out there with their millions of followers? And the answer is zero. There's actually nothing different between me and them. They're a human being just like me. They share what they've learned just like me. They have a bigger platform than me, but that hasn't been important enough to me to work on that. So I enjoy working with the people who've shown up just for various reasons to be in my audience, and that's good enough. And that's it. So I want to thank you for being part of that. Okay. So this story ultimately is about failure and what I learned from it. And it starts 22 years ago. So as a DJ, as Anabolic Frolic, one of the biggest DJs of my era, I sold hundreds of thousands of CDs. I performed around the world, and I live in Canada. And I used to just hop over the border. This is prior to 9/11. You didn't even need passports to travel to the United States. And I would just accept gigs, and I would lie. I would go across the border and say I'm visiting friends, and I'd go play at a party, and then I'd come home. And that worked just fine for a long time, years, and until it didn't. So the shortest version of this piece of history was, yeah, I was just going too frequently. They knew something was up, and I got caught once flying to Denver for 24 hours. They're like, why are you going to Denver for 24 hours? To visit a friend. What friend? And then I stopped wanting to give them, like, I don't want to get anybody in trouble, or and they're like, who bought the ticket? And I said, they did. And they're like, who's they? Like, so you can just imagine the customs people. And I realized, oh, they think that this is something to do with drugs or something, So I confessed. They denied me entry on that day, didn't let me go. I continued to go across the border, but then a few months later, I got caught again driving across to Buffalo, New York. And because I already had this little black mark on my record, they banned me outright on that day from ever re-entering, because clearly I didn't learn my lesson. There's a bigger conversation here about what truly was my crime. I'm a DJ who wants to play for his fans. Like, this is so stupid, However, the US government, I lied to customs officials. I misrepresented myself, blah, 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 blah. And the worst thing I did on that day was I thought the truth will set you free. And after they actually put me in a jail cell to cool me off for a few hours. And I just wanted to get the hell out of there. So I confessed to everything. I'm a DJ. I've done this before, blah, 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 blah. They wrote everything down. They had me sign it. Boom, and it was final. And I had so much regret about that day. Everything in me, there's a lot of intuition in me that told me on that particular night, just go home. Don't even try this. And I regret it so much that I didn't listen to myself. And I ended up destroying my DJ career because I lost all the opportunities of what laid for me in the United States because I couldn't actually perform any longer. I stayed in the business for some years after that, but ultimately I had to retire and I moved on with my life. And everything went back to that one fateful day where I got myself banned, and I lived with regret for 18 years. I clearly remember in the year 2018, I realized finally the life that I have today, I wouldn't have had that not happened. And I would never trade the life that I have today for anything. And if that is true, then I must be grateful that I got myself banned, because it forced me to move on with my life and do other things. And so that was helpful, just as far as just inner peace and feeling good about myself. But there's always been like this elephant in the room, which is, what's the status of entering the United States today, and who's truly keeping me out? Me, my fear, or them? And I did not know the answer to that. So finally, about 6 months ago, I was invited to attend a conference in San Diego. And I was thinking, maybe it's time to answer that question. So I didn't even have a passport. So I had to apply for getting a passport. That took months. Some people stepped forward. Some people on my Frolic 100 group stepped forward to connect me with lawyers. And I was like, oh, well, maybe this is it. Maybe the moon and stars will align here, and this will be a lot easier than I anticipated. Now, despite the offers of help, none of those lawyers actually, one was retired, one wasn't returning phone calls. Another lawyer I was connected to would not call me back, or didn't call me back when they said they would. And that to me is a red alarm. I do not do business with people who do not return my phone calls. So that goes for home contractors, anything. And that's my golden rule. So I was like, I'm not going to chase after a lawyer to do something for me. So this is clearly not meant to be either. However, that meant as the months passed, I had no legal assistance. And the date was coming up in August 2022, just for the recording. I did have my passport, and I realized, you know what? I'm just going to try. I bought my plane ticket. I booked a hotel. I got a letter from the event organizer about the purpose of my visit, because I knew they'd probably be asking me these things. And again, it's like, who is keeping me out? Me and my fear, or them? And I don't know. I don't know. And I need to find that out. I need to find that out. And I was thinking of, there's a scene in the movie Dumb and Dumber where Jim Carrey's talking to Lauren Holly, the pretty girl, and he's asking her, what are the odds a guy like me ending up with a girl like you? And she's like, not good. And he's like what, like 1 in 100? And she's like, more like 1 in a million. And then Jim Carrey says, so you're saying there's a chance? And he's just filled with it. And I was like, geez, if it's 1 in a million, I have to try. I have to try. If it's 1 in a million, I have to try. And so I was committed. I was going to try. And I told my wife, Robin, I was like, something's going to happen. I will change no matter what the outcome. I did whatever I could. So there was a direct flight leaving at 8 a.m. on Air Canada. I was like, there's no way they would clear me that fast. I have to anticipate being held for some time. So I booked a later flight that connected through San Francisco instead. I scheduled myself to leave 2 days early, just to, again, snafus at the airport, snafus with the customs people. I knew, okay, my credit card will have plenty of clearance. If I just need to buy a direct ticket at the last second, I will. So I planned for all of it, and I'm traveling by myself. This is not a family vacation, so it's kind of low stakes. So it's not like I'm going to Disney World with my family, and like, what if I get held back and my family now has to have a holiday without me? That wouldn't be good. And so the days counted down, and it's the night before I'm about to leave, and I'm like, I could not sleep. I was laying in bed. I had to wake up at 7 in the morning. I wanted to be at the airport for 8, and I don't live too far away. I don't know if you've had like sleepless nights where something important's happening the next day and you're afraid of sleeping in. So every 20 minutes I kept waking up, looking at the clock. Oh, it's 1:30. Oh, it's 1:50. Like I could not sleep. I kept waking up, looking at the clock. I could not relax. I told Robin that night, I was like, I could just choose not to go. Like, I could just choose not to go. No one's forcing me to do this. Like, why am I? So that was with me. And then I was feeling an interesting feeling, that same sensation in me, which was, don't go, don't go, that I had felt 22 years earlier. And I was like, okay, well, what is this? Is this fear or is this wisdom? Like, I thought this was my inner wisdom 22 years ago. And I had regret for 18 years that I did not listen to myself, but I'm feeling the exact same thing right now. This is, what is this? You know, and if I do the thing right now that I had regret about not listening to myself 22 years ago, I'm going to have further regret because I didn't answer some questions. Like, are they stopped? Like, what would have happened? I don't know. So it's like, I can't listen to this. This has to be fear. So it's really made me rethink about this whole idea of inner wisdom, and it's fear that's trying to protect me. And that's like, I cannot give in. I cannot give in to this fear. So 7 a.m. rolls around. I come into this room that I'm in right now, my office. I sit in my chair. I'm looking out my window, and I'm just like, I could still not go. I could still not go. And it's like, how would I live with myself after that? How could I tell people I didn't even try? And it's like, I can't live with that. Like, I can't, or I could lie to people. I could lie to people and say, I tried and oh, they didn't let me in. I could make up a reason. I don't think I could hold that story very long. So the truth would come out pretty quickly that I'd given into my fear. And that is not the story I wanted to tell about this. So I was like, I have to go through with this. And so I called up an Uber on my phone, and I'm just sitting with dread, just like I hadn't slept. Now I'm too nervous to eat, so I'm not fueled properly. I didn't even have juice or water or anything. And I get in this car, and he's driving me closer to the airport, and I'm just feeling sick. And there's so much, this has been so reinforced over like this 22-year story. And yeah, there was real trauma. They took my freedom away from me. They locked me up. And I was dealing with the shame that was a situation of my own doing. I'm ultimately responsible for being banned. It doesn't matter that we could all agree that it's stupid that they stopped a DJ from going across. It doesn't matter. I still lied to them, and that was my doing. And the older, wiser version of me can offer myself some forgiveness in that, as a young person, I was trying to do it all on my own. I didn't know to reach out to people to help me, and that's okay. I can forgive that younger version of me for not knowing and just trying to get across and see his fans, and that's it. So I'm in this ride to the airport, I packed light. I only had a single backpack. I wasn't checking any luggage. I get to Toronto Pearson Airport, our main international airport, Air Canada. I walk into the terminal, and now I'm walking across the terminal from the Canadian departures to the US departures. And all of a sudden I start seeing the US flag. And it's just this imperial flag. And it was just making me sick. And I was like, I could still not go. I could go home. I could go home. And I'm like, no, we have to. They could let you through. They could let you through. Like, yeah, and I don't know the answer. I did not know the answer. What was going to happen? So it's like finally I get into line for security, and I start a stopwatch on my phone because I was curious to see how this is all going to last. So now I get into the security line. That took 1 hour of just zigzagging to get through the x-rays. I'm feeling sick. Like, it's just like so I'm just sitting. When we talk about fight or flight or whatever, that feeling, I'm in it. Like, and there's no escape from it because I'm caught in it, you know. And I'm like, I have to see this through. I have to see this through. And I get through the x-rays, and then the next line is the US immigration, another big zigzagging line with the booths at the end. Except now I'm in a secured area, and I realized, oh, there's no, okay, I'm in the waters of Niagara Falls, and the current now is pulling me, and like there's only one way this is going to end, and that's over the falls. Like I've my window of going home has passed. Like I can't swim to the shore anymore. And so now I'm in this line for US immigration. I'm looking at the booths. I'm looking at the guards. I'm just sitting in this feeling. I'm finally, it's my time. I'm standing in front of the friggin' booth. I walk up, I have my passport. There's a lady in the booth. I hand her my passport. She's like, where are you going? I said, San Diego. She scans my passport. She takes my picture. And then she says to me, have you ever been denied entry into the United States? And I know it's a trick question because she already knows the answer. So, so I'm like, yes, a long time ago. It was 22 years ago. I haven't been in the States in a very long time. I could tell she's doing more on the computer. She's like, oh, and now she starts taking my fingerprints. She's like, put your fingers in the sensors, put your thumbs in the sensors. I don't know if they do that for everybody, but now she's asking me. And then she says, oh, like, so what happened like 22 years ago? And I said, oh, I was a DJ. I was sneaking across to do gigs. And she kind of laughed at that. And I was like, oh my God, she's laughing. Maybe she's going to let me through. Maybe she's going to let me through. So she's spending some more time on the computer. And then finally, she's like, this is your first time re-entering. I have to bring you into the secondary questioning. And I was like, okay, yes, I figured this might happen. So I've given myself lots of time, you know, before my flight. So it's okay. And she walks me over. So from the booths, there's this secured area with locked doors. I get brought in. She has my passport now. She puts my passport, she files it away, and she's like, take a seat. So I spent 1 hour in security, 1 hour in the immigration line, and now I'm in this new room, this secured room. There was maybe 5 or 6 people in this room, and it's a sad room because all of us have been interrupted going to the United States, and we're all scared, you know. And so there was a Chinese kid, his visa was not right with it or something as a student. There was a tech guy who works, I guess, in Silicon Valley, and I don't know, something about his visa. And so they're all being, like, I'm sitting there and I'm watching people being questioned. And then finally, after waiting an hour, the guy calls me up, calls my name. And he says to me, he goes, everything on your file has expired except the fraud charge. I don't even know what he's talking about, fraud charge. I'm guessing the fraud is because I misrepresented myself to customs a long time ago. He's like, that will never expire. He goes, so I can't let you in today. And So I told the guy, I was like, listen, it's been 22 years. It's been a long time. I honestly had no idea what was going to happen. I tried. You're telling me this is the end. Okay. He's like, okay, well, just go take your seat. So now I'm sitting there for an hour, another hour. And I'm watching the customs guy, my guy, talking with two other people, and they're looking at the computer. And I'm like, F me, like what's happening here? Fraud charge, like what is going, like, are they talking about me? And are they like, oh, we've got him, like our you know, and fraud charge, it's like, we can arrest this, like he's in our possession now, we can arrest him. And it was really scary. But then I was like, you have no idea what they're talking about. Like there's a part of me that knew this. It's like they could be talking about football. So, and I was like, you don't know that. So this narrative this story now that I'm constructing about them going like this and that they've got me, you don't know if that's true. So I was able to calm myself down somewhat, but I'm still trapped. I'm in a secured area. They have my passport. I am not free to leave. I can't just make a run for it. I'm there until they decide I can go. And so I wait for like another hour. The guy calls me back, and then the guy is like, okay, I'm going to take your sworn statement now. I'm like, oh, what is this? And then I could tell he was reading off his computer. Do you swear that everything you're about to say is given out of your own free will and you're not under duress? I'm like, what is this for? He's like, do you swear that everything, he just keeps repeating himself. Now, the thing is, I've heard this before. 22 years ago, the guy got me to confess to everything. And I chose then to be very honest. And again, I was afraid this time, what if okay, so my purpose of entering the United States is completely legitimate, but what if he asks me a question like, did you try to enter the United States today knowing you've been banned previously? And what if that was a new law that I broke? So I was like, I cannot answer this. Like, I can't go down this road. I went down this road before and it effed me. So so I told the guy, I was like, I'm feeling very anxious right now. This is bringing up a lot in me because of everything that's happened in my past. He's like, do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is you know, blah, blah. He's just repeating himself. So then I was like, I just want to leave. I couldn't believe I said it. Like I said that. And he's like, okay, I'm going to write that down. Go take a seat. And part of me, there was like an outside out of body experience watching myself actually stand up to authority like this, like just like imposing authority. They had I could not even leave if I wanted to. And this is US government. And I'm telling them, no, I'm not answering these questions. And part of me was like, good for you, Chris. Look at you standing up to authority. And, you know, so I go sit down, and then finally, he calls me back and he's like, all right, I'm going to print some stuff now and you can sign it. He said something about you could sign it. And I caught that. And I was like, well, I'm not signing anything. And he's like, okay. And I was like, holy shit, I just did it again. Like, so I just told him not signing anything. So he printed some stuff, but I did not sign it. And then he's like, okay, follow me. And then he walked me through the secured area back to departures and handed me my passport. And then I was out. And I was like, freedom! I was so excited. And it's like, I can't believe you just did that. I can't believe you just did that. Like, oh my God, I can't believe you just did that. And you just did that. And I'm feeling it now. Like I can't believe I just did that. I can't believe I sat in that level of terror for hours. Like it was just, and I can't believe I told them I'm not going to do their friggin' sworn testimony, and I'm not going to sign anything. And then I was out, and then I was just filled with so much gratitude that I did decide to go. Like, I did not give in to that voice of fear. And it's important to me, and I've talked about this previously on other calls I've had with the Frolic 100. I want to walk my walk. Like, I want to model, like this is what it looks like, you know, and this is how I'm going to have impact on people. So it's really important for me to like live up to, you know, what I say. And even though I have stories like that in my past, I want to continue to live into or lead into that. So the irony now is my story is far more powerful in failure than it is had they just let me through. Because the version of had they just let me through, that story would have been I had made a mountain out of a molehill. And it turned out to be nothing. This turned out all my fears were real. I had good reason to avoid entering the United States. The ban was for life. I sat with all that fear, and I made myself go through with it because I wanted to answer. Is it me or is it them? And now I have my answer, and I know. And what does it mean for me that I'm willing to face like this level of terror? I can't think of another situation. I mean, US government and my personal freedom, like making a proposal to somebody, hosting a Zoom, getting on a stage. I mean, that's nothing compared to what I just went through. And I'm going to be able to tap into that now and dig into it. So what I want to leave for you in the audience, a question of where in your own life might you be able to create a Kobayashi Maru scenario? And who benefits when you're willing to do that? Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Leslie.
Yeah, that was, yeah. I was with you when you were describing that. Because I know Toronto Pearson as well. I was imagining the lineups. And I was thinking about that close, that security. I thought, I know exactly what Chris is talking about. But yeah, so yeah, that was quite a journey. Yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was inspired to host today because I like telling my stories. I wanted an audience. I didn't want to just record this in solitude. I wanted to relive it. I wanted you to feel something with me today. It makes me feel good. And something I articulated on a previous call, Leslie, about the life that I want to create for myself. I want more adventure in my life. That was something I had declared. And that was with me the night before I left. It's like, I'm seeking adventure.
Yes.
This is adventure. Like this is, and true adventure, I think, involves some danger. Like otherwise you're just going to a carnival, right? So, so I wanted adventure. I had to follow the call. Yeah.
And nothing bad happened.
Ultimately, nothing bad happened. No, it was sort of the worst case scenario, which is I'm going to be judged for something I did 22 years ago. But yeah, it was 4.5 hours of my life, not including the lead up. The other thing, when I was debriefing this story previously with somebody, that experience I had when they were talking, looking at the computer, and I was having a worst case scenario, it's also possible because I have no idea what was happening there. What if the guy was saying, how do I let this guy through? He might have been conferring with his colleagues about, this is an old charge.
Yeah.
Can this guy go through today? And it was good for me to realize that after the fact, because I want to live in a world where people are trying to help people, help me specifically. And I was a little bit sad for myself that that wasn't my first instinct. I went to the nuclear instinct, which is they're going to arrest me, and this is going to get even worse because I dared show up here. And but I like the version that he was actually checking with his colleagues and wondering, can I help this person? And then when I voiced, I'm feeling very anxious right now and I just want to leave, maybe he did what he could to let me go.
Yeah.
Chris, when did you decide in all of this to go to them and do it face to face, live, in the moment, as opposed to trying to talk to somebody on the phone or first?
Initially I thought I would, like I could work with the lawyers and we could find out, and is there a way to test my admissibility without me actually showing up at the border? I was under an extremely tight deadline because there's this event going on that I wanted to be part of. So I figured, you know what, I'm just going to just throw on my backpack and try. And I knew those guys have a lot of arbitrary power. Like it does come down, like they could decide ultimately, whatever, or maybe they don't even notice, or so that was the 1 in a million shot that I was sort of thinking that it could still happen, where maybe that initial lady that I talked to at the first booth, maybe she could just rubber stamp me, and like and I did see them as kind people, like they're civil servants and they're just doing their job. And that first lady, clearly my file is more complicated than she can approve in 10 seconds. So she wasn't out to get me, and then she brought me to the secondary. And then that guy ultimately wasn't an asshole to me. I have been treated badly in the past, but this is sort of like, just because you had a bad experience with one person doesn't mean it's true for everybody. And that was something I really tried to tie in. But
the
Michael,
the only concern I have for you was that they were, because you were trying it on.
Yeah.
Did that negatively impact you in their eyes, or positively impact it in the guys that were trying to be kind? They were trying potentially, let's be positive here.
I think I have an answer for that question. In my passport, there's a stamp from the US, and it's and it says something about admission withdrawn. So as opposed to me being denied on that day. So no, I don't think I further hurt myself. And I probably will continue this story with a lawyer and give it as much time as it needs. I'm going to be able to give the lawyer more information, right? So I was banned in August 2000. I tried 22 years later. This is what they told me. They told me there's a fraud charge that will not expire, and they marked me as admittance withdrawn, and they sent me on my way. So so I do believe I have more information to give a lawyer now, and I didn't hurt myself.
No, you didn't. That's, I mean, this is a research project, if nothing.
There you go. You were a scientist, Chris, getting data.
I wanted to know the answer, and no one, most people were actually quite optimistic. Most people thought I actually had a good shot, like just, lay people, but most people are like, geez, it's so old, this thing, so, and you know how it is when we talk with people can make really big things in their minds, but we see it as not a big deal. And I had to entertain that could be true for me. Like this could be like just this huge thing. Now it turns out, well, no, it is real. But I'm very proud of myself for going through with it. And I do know I am a changed person, and I am going to, that's going to be even today I thought about it. Like I have general nerve, as anybody does when you get on stage. And I reminded myself, dude, this is nothing compared to that, so what do you, there's nothing to be nervous about today. Yeah.
And I wanted to also just add to that, Chris, that yeah, it's intimidating reaching out, and because being an entrepreneur, you're always going to know. Well,
yeah,
as Rich Litfin says, yes lives in the land of no.
for sure, 100%.
The other thing I
And-
wanted to add to your regarding
Please.
the whole story was
Yeah.
sort of that intellectualization of, well, because this happened, so many other opportunities presented themselves, like being denied,
Yeah.
not being able to continue your DJ career, kind of opened up another door for you.
It did.
And I've had a similar experience of that, but that is a jagged little pill. Like it's the intellectual rationalization. Well, because of this, that happened 5 years ago. Wow, I would have never been here where I am now. But it's still such a visceral feeling when you take yourself back to those moments of, whoa, that happened.
Mm.
So I really responded to that.
Thank you. I was inspired. The Rock, the actor, Dwayne Johnson.
Yes.
He shared a story in recent years about he was in costuming for one of his latest films, and on the TV screen was a Canada Football League game, CFL game happening in Vancouver, and it reminded him that he actually played football for the Vancouver. It's the Canucks or whatever the football team is there.
BC Lions.
BC Lions. There you go. I don't follow. He was fired from that job, which meant if I can't make it in the CFL, I'm never going to get to the NFL. And his NFL dreams died, and it was the worst day of his life to go home with $20 in his pocket and to be fired from the Canadian Football League. However, we know that started him on an alternate path, first as a wrestler and now as one of the biggest movie stars in the world. And that all happened because of that experience he had.
There you go.
And him sharing that story made me reflect, and ultimately I became grateful, knowing again the life that I have today wouldn't be possible had this thing not happened. So yeah.
I did not know that about Dwayne Johnson.
Well, parting thoughts, and then we'll wrap things up.
I just have a question, Chris.
Yeah.
What's it like for you now? And is it felt more in your body or your head after the experience? What's it like for you now?
The number one word I would use to describe what I feel now is pride. I have so much pride in myself. Your comment about nothing bad happened to me is true, and oh my God, the terror and the fear that I had, that I had to endure to find that out, to answer that, was intense. And so I'm proud of myself today. I'm proud that I have this new story to share and tell, and the elephant in the room has now been released. Like it's not this nagging thing about what if, and I've even answered that nagging regret I had about, I thought I was not listening to my inner wisdom 22 years ago, but I do believe now it was fear then, and it was fear today, or this most recent time, and it's okay. Like I didn't screw myself. It was just, it's just things happen sometimes. Yeah.
Is this fear or inner wisdom? I can't give up that statement that you shared.
Yeah.
That's the takeaway.
Yeah.
Because for all the reasons you just stated.
Yeah. I'm going to say the answer can only be found if you actually step through the fear.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. All right, we'll work on it.
But I think I'm thinking about out of this experience, Chris, you created something. You just put this new thing out in the world.
Thank you.
That's really empowering.
Mm. I appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming today.
Thank
Till
you.
next time.
Chris.
Okay.